I'm Josie Tota.
Tota.
And I'm saying that like that because I'm in Italia.
She's giving Lizzie McGuire movie.
It's giving Lizzie McGuire movie, and it's almost like cottage core.
Very much.
Like in Italy, eat, pray, love type shit.
Yeah.
You're really just beautiful.
You're sitting in front of somebody's bureau. Like, this is, I just love all of it. You're glowing.
Just beautiful. We're dedicating this episode to
Josie Tota.
Yeah.
Okay, Josie
My
Tota
heart.
and Italy. I'm Alycia Pascual-Peña.
Hi, I'm Yasmine Hamadi, and you're watching Disney Channel. Dun, 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 dun.
Ding, ding,
Ever since you changed the pronunciation of your last name, it's honestly, I've had to cope with that.
It's been an adjustment.
It's big for you.
It's the way that you just changed the way you say your last name. It's like, who does that?
It's cognitively, like, people notice it too. Like, in the promo for Dare We Say, I was like, Yasmine Hamadi. And now I'm like, it feels weird just saying my last name in general. So I don't even want to say my last name anymore.
No,
period. I'm
please
just
say your
Yasmine.
last name.
I'm just Yasmine. I'm just like any other bitch. I'm kidding. You'll never meet anyone like me.
Anyways, how are we, guys?
Well, I was so blessed by just the life-saving measure that was Alycia last weekend when I randomly was like, will you come and meet me in Spain for the weekend? And Alycia said yes. That was like very privileged sentence to say. But we recognize it and we're grateful for it. And we were able to meet up in Spain and have the best weekend in Mallorca.
It was ethereal. I was so grateful.
And honestly, it was so fun. I thought it was going to be like a very like resort vibe where we just sit every day and like lay by the pool. But like we were Dora the motherfucking Explorer, and I'm not just saying that because Alycia is Latina. I'm saying that because I was literally Map and Alycia was Dora. Like, we literally were just vibing up a storm.
You were the Map and I was Dora with the backpack.
And I was Swiper no swiping across the pond being like,
You
are
were
you guys
Swiper.
answering my fucking texts?
You were Swiper.
Literally. Anyway, we just had did you have a good time? I'm speaking for you.
It was so healing. It was so beautiful. Probably not the smartest thing to leave my life in disarray at the drop of a hat. Gonna try not to do that again, but I would do it again for you.
Your life was in disarray?
No, I think I just like left so last minute, but it was so beautiful. It was so healing. Like I came back just floating just because, you know, we haven't been able to spend time together and we got to like experience this new country together. I also felt like it was just so special. Not only to travel with you, but like to experience a new culture, new food with you. I feel like that is one of the most special things you could do with a human being, and to be able to do it with my sister Josie. It was the best weekend ever. We were a little bit on sports mode, which was insane. We were doing all the hikes, jumping into random beaches. But I think that's what life is about. And yeah, we had the best time ever.
I was going to say, like, honestly, yes, you might have left at a drop of a hat and you came back and you were overwhelmed. But like, as a best friend coming from this perspective, I'm so glad you went, and I'm so glad both of you guys were together, because if you, like, in 20 years, you're going to look back and be like, fuck, that was such an amazing week.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful that I had that experience. Honestly, I'm so happy that you guys both went.
We
Truly.
appreciate you. Nobody knew I was there. Like,
Yeah.
And mind you, I was not overwhelmed. If anything, it's like what Josie said. I'm so privileged that I was able to do that. A couple years ago, that was not my life.
That wasn't an option for you.
I live a very blessed life in ways that I couldn't even have imagined as a
Sure.
kid because of the humble beginnings I come from. So I was so grateful to do that. And coming back, I wasn't even overwhelmed. I feel like it was just like, I think I did something so spontaneous, which is very out of my character to do that randomly. But I was just so grateful. I was so humbled to be there with Josie and have the experiences, and to have people in my life like you that support me, you know, like community is everything. And I even had like a really fruitful conversation with my manager about it, and just like not equating ourselves worth with work. And I think that has a lot to do with phones, because we think like, oh, we put this phone down, we're gonna miss an opportunity, we're gonna miss work. And like Josie and I had our phones down most of the time. Like nobody knew I was there. I literally have taken like over 7 flights in the last 2 weeks, and people don't know where I'm at. And it's been beautiful to just be present with new people, like in addition to having the beautiful experience with my friend. And even like you, like we're a community. I come back to you and we'll catch up, and we have all these new things to talk about, and you get to tell me about your film and stuff. And there's a beauty in that, and you can't always do that when the phone's in front of your face. So I'm really excited about what we're talking about today.
100%.
Yeah. And, well, I agree. And because of how great last weekend was, I was literally like, I want to go somewhere the weekend after. So that is why I took a solo trip to the south of Italy and to the Amalfi Coast. And, you know, it was very interesting 2 days that I had with myself. I learned a lot about myself. It was harder than I thought it would be alone in a country for that long, which just sounds crazy because, like, I live alone in Scotland and, like, I'm constantly, like, I'm more alone in Scotland than I've ever been in my life. But then when I was in Italy, I was like, I actually am not that alone that much in Scotland. And I was having dinner with myself last night. Yeah, with me, myself, and I.
Yep.
Last night. And the restaurant, I literally went up to the woman at the front desk of my hotel and I said, I want to have the best food. I don't care if it's a nice restaurant. I don't care if it's fancy. I don't care if it's close or far. Can you make me a reservation at the best restaurant in town? And this woman said, okay, see. So she, boss-ass bitch, she's like 20 years old and is a DJ.
Love her.
But anyway, she made me this reservation. A man in a shuttle picked me up and took me to this place far as fuck away. And I sat down and the owner of this restaurant kept giving me free food. I was really like, am I literally at like a promoter dinner right now? Because this man like kept serving me food. I'm like, what do you want from me?
It's like in Squid Game, the last scene where they're feeding everyone before they have them fight to the death.
That was literally it. And he was just really nice. Kept giving me free stuff. He gave me a free shot of limoncello, which was amazing. And then I already had a glass of wine. So, you know, I was like, I wasn't buzzed at all, but I was like, I was warm is how I would describe it.
I know exactly that.
At a certain part of the dinner, this man came up to me and I had just like finished my main meal. And he was like, oh, I'll give you dessert for free. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. And then he said to me, he was like, do you want to meet my brother? And I was like, sure. Which I don't know why I said yes. I just kind of thought he was going to be like bring out his brother to the dinner table. But then all of a sudden I'm following him outside the restaurant and into this back room, which is like another part of the restaurant. Mom, don't get scared. And all of the chefs are around a table in the kitchen and they're all eating and cheering and celebrating. He was like, it's my brother's birthday. Pull up a chair. And he literally pulled up a chair. All of a sudden, I'm eating, I'm drinking with like this, all the chefs of the kitchen, with this guy's 80-year-old dad, with his cousin, with his little cousin, with the 16-year-old that works at the restaurant. And then we're having like homemade cake from this like their Italian friend who's a baker. And it was so wonderful. And I had the most incredible conversation with this man. Shout out Paolo. And Paolo was basically the only one who kind of knew English. And Paolo was telling me about how frustrated he was with our generation. I'm not even kidding. Because he was like, you guys are all so obsessed with your phones. And like, it's all this. And he kept doing like the motion of texting. He was like, you're not living anymore. You're not going outside. You're not experiencing things. Now everybody's on their computer or watching TV. Or, just like not being present. He was like, we learn from each other. He also said, everybody wants to talk, but nobody wants to listen. And I was like, that is so true. Obviously not that profound to say, but like it hit. And I was like, as a podcaster, I'm like, that hits. But what I will say is that he was fucking amazing. And it kind of inspired me to talk about phones today and how we've kind of become so obsessed with it. It's literally like an addiction, dare I say, likened to a jewel or a flume or whatever the fuck people do, because I do not smoke. #smokeless. And anyway, if the idea of talking about how phones are single-handedly and slowly ruining our lives overwhelms you, then join this conversation. We can talk about our toxic relationship with the meanest man of them all, which is the toxic iPhone. Or Samsung if you're weird, but whatever. In a life where phones have become our accessory, not only to our lives, but to our beings, I wanted to talk about a conversation that we have every day on this item, which is the cell phone. I am an addict, and you are one too. Most likely, the first thing you do in the morning is check your phone. the last thing you do is check your phone.
Josie, what the fuck?
Wait, I think that's wonderful, but should we be telling people they're an addict?
I mean, they are, though.
No, you
it's
cannot tell people that.
Scientifically, it's not an addiction.
No, we are. Huh?
They did a study on this. They did a study on this. It's not an addiction.
Okay, sorry, you're not an addict. Let's get into this conversation about phones.
Phones. It's a hot topic. So many feelings, so many emotions. But I want to ask you guys, what is your relationship with your phone? Because I feel like all of our feelings towards phones are very different.
Yeah, they're all vastly different. For me, I feel like the phone is, and this is really sad to say, and if you're like, oh, this is so pathetic, chances are you're probably...
It's most of the world.
It's a lifeline. Mm-hmm. It is a part of your lifeline. It's, I don't want to say exactly it's an addiction, because an addiction, it literally is different than a drug, because this is also essential for everyday life.
But you can be codependent on your phone.
Absolutely. Well, you are.
Yeah.
I am. I'm codependent on my phone.
I'm dependent on my phone.
And the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I go on my phone. The last thing I do before I go to bed is I go on my phone. Mm-hmm. So my relationship with my phone is I love it, but it gives me so much anxiety.
Yeah.
It really does give you anxiety.
All my anxiety lies in my stomach and my gut. It always has since I was a kid. And like getting a text from someone that I didn't want to get a text from makes my stomach drop. And the fact that just seeing someone's name pop up on a phone can have a visceral reaction into my health, my like literal immune system is so insane. And along with social media, I also feel like I'm getting dumber. Like I take notes on this instead of writing. I don't know how to do... Like, I'm too lazy to do, like, simple math. I have a calculator here.
Yeah.
I track my health here, my steps. It's becoming...
Things that you don't know offhand.
Then that you should be knowing offhand. That I'm relying on this to create memories instead of living for the right now, making a memory. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. I think all of us, like, even if there are people that are better at putting down their phones, all of us subconsciously have to engage.
100%.
With our phone in unhealthy manners, whether it's for work, whether it's the way that we communicate with people. I'll be totally transparent. My relationship with my phone is actually something I'm pretty embarrassed about.
Go on.
Like, I am very embarrassed about, because I'm not good with my phone. I'm like a bad texter. And I don't say that to be cute or have people pander to me. I think sometimes it can come off that way. Like, oh, it's like I'm just a bad texter. Like, just blow up my phone.
No,
No, I'm an awful texter. Like, I'm an awful texter. I have literally like jeopardized friendships with people because of my inability to communicate over the phone, or because I very much sometimes will just see an influx of text, because I'll get a lot of texts or I'll get a lot of phone calls, and then I'm like, okay, if I open this one text, I have to open the other 300.
Yeah.
And like, that's not an exaggeration. So then I don't touch any of them, and that's super...
She's just really popular. So she has 400 texts.
No.
I'm fucking with you. No, but I hear you.
Please do, because there is certain times where, like, I think, even you guys, but I've had other friends have like very start conversations with me where they were holding me accountable and being like, hey, I don't feel heard, I don't feel like you're showing up for me as a friend because of your inability to communicate. Because the bare minimum is to respond to a text from 4 weeks ago. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then it's also like, how do we navigate the juxtaposition of my peace is my peace, and I don't owe anyone anything? And I also think that as humans, we weren't made to be this accessible to everyone at all times.
Agreed.
Because I don't only have text, I got calls, I got DMs, I got Twitter. Which, fun fact, they took my verification away because I haven't used it since 2021. But anyways.
On Twitter?
Yes.
That's so spiteful.
Trifling.
Also,
anyways.
Elon Musk took it over, so that's why.
Let's not even
Josie,
give him the airtime. But
what's your relationship with your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like in the grand scheme of like people my age with their phone, I have a pretty good relationship with it. Like, I'm addicted to my phone. I'm addicted to TikTok. I'm addicted to, for some reason, looking at myself on the camera like 24/7. If a random person walks into a restaurant, they could literally be the least attractive person to me in the entire world. I would still be like, how am I being perceived right now?
Sure.
I'm just so obsessed with how I'm constantly perceived at any given moment, and that's something that I'm trying to work on. I think that when Alycia had COVID, I did a cleanse with my social media. And I don't know why I chose to do it when you had COVID, but it helped. And I literally, I was off Instagram and everything. I know that's not my phone, but that really helped, because it wasn't until I deleted the app, and I suggest you guys all do it too, like try for a day or however long, you can handle it. because my thumb kept going to the place that the
Yes,
Instagram was.
yes, Josie.
Yes, like just a reaction.
Okay, I was like a phantom limb. And that's what it was for me.
Yes.
And I was like, wow. And honestly, I feel like I have a really good relationship. Not really good. I think I have a good-ish relationship with social media, but still not with my phone. When I wake up, I want to see the text that I got. It's the validation that I get.
I think we should all incorporate more mindfulness practices into our daily routine, even if they're minuscule. Like, I don't think that this is a big deal, because it's not. It's literally so sad that I have to
No, I'm proud of you for it. I didn't even mention it, but I'm proud of you for it.
You know what it is? Yes, because you guys live with me. So every morning I wake up the same way. I try to have my phone like physically away from me, and I will blast gospel music.
Oh, that's
It's
like
true.
It's my thing.
Wait, no, I was going to talk about something else. I thought you were going to talk about the fact that you set time limits for Instagram.
Oh, I do.
She does do
I
that,
do.
but I'm like Alycia,
Thank you,
when she
Josie.
wakes up, her phone will be on the other side of the bed charging, not next to her. She won't even go on it, and she'll put on gospel music or a preacher's.
Yeah, or like a sermon.
A sermon on
and mind you, that's different for everybody. Like, I know my friend like Emily, love her so much. She will put on like meditation sounds. Other people will do things that will like align their chakras. But for me, gospel music is really helpful. Like, even this morning, I had my phone like in my room playing gospel music, and I did my makeup and like had a conversation with Angelica because my friend had slept over. And just was present in the morning, and then let my day start.
Yeah.
But then even that sometimes I can't do because there's an email or
I was
whatever
gonna
it may
say,
be.
I think it's really amazing that you guys are able to do that sometimes, but it's so ambitious sometimes, I feel like, to even do that, because chances are, like, I'm waking up in the morning, I have to make coffee quickly because I'm exhausted. I have work in the morning, we all do, but it's like I need to see who messaged me.
Yeah.
And also, why is it awful that I get disheartened if I don't wake up with a bunch of text messages of people reaching out to me?
Yasmine, what the phone has done and what these apps have done is create a literal codependency between the phone and us, the person. That's almost like a drug that it keeps giving us more and more. All of these apps are designed to trigger our serotonin levels.
Yes.
Down to the way the notification looks, the way the notification pops up on your phone, the color of these apps, the colors of when it means when someone's texted you, or when your DMs are emboldened, like the text is emboldened, because like that means there's a DM there. Like, all of these things are intricately designed to fuck us over.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, because how fucked it is, because how serious it is, serious intention equals serious impact. And that impact results in, anxiety, crippling anxiety for some people. Yas, I know I personally have witnessed you have anxiety with social media. And I've also even talked to Eva about you having anxiety with social media on the day that you had to drive to LA from San Francisco.
Shit, yeah. Well, also, if you don't know, Eva's my, like, other half. So, yeah, you guys should, that's valid. I think it's interesting. There was actually a study. You bring up how the design is literally made to impact our
it's
mind.
psychology.
It's psychology. They did a study where there were actual withdrawals that if you don't be on your phone for a couple hours, you get exhausted. Like, your brain gets sleepy. You get bored easily. But so then what do you do to get back up again? You go back on your phone.
Yeah.
And it's a constant cycle that it's making you yearn for it more. And it also, when you get on social media, like for me, when I post a photo and I'm getting a bunch of attention, my day gets better. And I think it's deeper than obviously the phone. I want public validation from people, which is a human thing that I know everyone feels. But it's also like we're starting so young now on social media and having these phones, like babies. There was another study that we'll cite in the podcast notes that when like toddlers, specifically the age of 2 to 4, you know how there's the terrible twos, they're crying all the time and they're throwing tantrums.
Is it because they want a phone?
They're like, give me a fucking iPhone, Mom. No, it's because, and it's just like kids being kids, and the mom or the parent would give them an iPad, a tablet, an iPhone to shut them up. And usually a good portion of the time they're quiet. But then they look back years later and they shut off their emotions because they just pacify on this phone, on social media, on games and apps, just to shut down. Instead of handling the problem face first, you just kind of just push it to the side and get on the phone.
It's like that feeling when you post a photo on Instagram. and I still kind of have remnants of this. I think I have 10% of this feeling, maybe 6%, because I'm just being honest. When you post on Instagram, you're immediately like, you think the world hates you, and you're like constantly checking like how that photo is doing. And that is not even something that I want to do, but just naturally my body does. And I've developed a really healthy relation on social media now, I feel like, because I just genuinely do not give a flying fickety fuck about it. Like, I don't care. I'm not trying. I think when I was younger, and by when I was younger, I mean last year, I was like, I felt like I needed to prove to myself and other people that, like, I'm hot and I'm, like, you know, gorgeous, and these are, like, cute photos of me here, and I'm having a fun life here. And it's like, now it's like, I don't feel the need to fucking prove anything to anyone anymore. And I'm like, you can see that I'm hot in person, and, like, fuck off. And I feel like that's gotten better. But still, the phone. And this may be one of the most insensitive things I have said on this podcast, so please tell me if this is, like, fucked up.
Yeah.
But I do think that one could liken, like, a phone addiction to similar tendencies with a food addiction. And that's a hot take.
Go on. Back up your point.
In the 21st century that we live in, we need our phones like we need food. And so that's why it's like, when it comes to something like alcoholism, and like, I'm not comparing different types of addictions. I'm also not an expert at all. And I haven't lived through that, so I cannot testify to that genuinely. But when it comes to something that's like foreign drugs or controlled substances, it makes more sense in my head how someone could separate themselves from it. But when it's something like food, you can't really blame the person, because like, you have to live, you have to eat to live. You know, it's like, that must be such a hard thing to like cut out of your daily life, because you literally need to eat to survive. And obviously this has a very different impact, but I definitely think we need our phones in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Like, we
and
need
it's
it
like
for work, and we need it for life.
Absolutely. And it's sad to say, because I think it's really easy to like tell people like, oh, just don't use your phone. That is literally not possible for most of us.
That's not possible.
For example, I couldn't have traveled without my phone. There were certain things when I got to different countries that I needed to do on my phone that I would have not been able to do. There were, like, for example, say I didn't know the language. Like, I knew the language in Spain. Like, people have Translate. Like, I needed to be able to... Did you say flex? Oh, yeah, I'm an immigrant. Ooh, so cool. Well, I do think it's cool, but
as it should
I feel like
be.
I was just in an after-school ad.
Yeah, I think it's cool that I'm the daughter of immigrants and you're watching Dairy Say. That's basically what it felt like.
But no, like, it's so funny, because you'll meet like that Silver Lake, like, hippie boy.
Yeah,
that'll be like,
just not on my phone.
I have a flip phone.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Who needs a phone? It's like, well, yeah, babe, I have emails to answer, so cool. Like, please do what's best for you. But like, we all have to use a phone. What is scary is like the overconsumption of us using the phone. Like, we were physically not made to look at a screen this long. It blows my mind. Like, now I feel like a total nerd when we think about how we're evolving as humans because of our phones.
Physically, did you see the
Physically,
National
we're
Geographic
changing. Like, literally, like,
cover?
my mom talks about this all the time, and she's gonna laugh that I even brought this up. But she genuinely thinks that her neck curves differently because of her computer
no, but it's
and her
true.
phone. The overconsumption of it, like, we're all on this way too much, like, just scientifically, objectively. Like, there are studies that say Americans check their smartphones on average of 96 times a day, which works out to once every 15 minutes. 2/3 of Americans check their phones 160 times every day.
I probably do it like 700,000.
No, I was gonna
literally,
say,
I'm like checking my phone every 5 seconds.
I was like, frankly, I think we
I
passed
check
that.
my phone
But
so much that my phone checks me. I'm like, I'm
stop.
never not on my phone.
Stop. But I think that the way that we navigate using our phones is really differently. So it makes me want to pose the question, what are specific moments or instances that have given you anxiety or heightened your stress around having a phone? Because I think that's different for all of us. For me, personally, it's text all the way. Like, I know that this sounds like such a preposterous statement, but I do believe it with every fiber in my being. I wish our phones didn't have texting. And I know that that's literally the most convenient part of having a phone. I wish they only had calls.
Do you get anxiety from it?
Can I be totally honest?
yes.
To have anxiety means I would have to care. And most of the time I don't care. And that is really messed up. Like when someone texts me, like, I'm like, oh, it's not that deep. I don't care about responding to text immediately, but what I think does stress me out, and I think what does give me anxiety is not the phone itself, is the fact that I've had people question where we stand because of my inability to have quick responses or to be present in that way, if that makes any sense.
Which is valid.
So I'll have like 400 texts, 500 texts on my phone. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it's not that deep. Because it's also, I have that same sentiment towards people with me. If I text you and you don't text me right away, I don't really care. Unless we're making plans. I'm not an awful person. I am consistent and present with that. But I think I literally sent it in our group chat this week. I fell out with a friend that I literally have not responded to just this week from high school, one of my best friends from high school, because they had been harboring anger towards me because of my inability to like text back or call them as much as they would like, but they never articulated that to me. So like those moments are really hard for me because I just don't put that much weight into my phone, and that is what stresses me out the most about having a phone.
Sure. I mean, I can speak on like even behalf of like our text that like we sent to Dare We Say. It's for the last like week and a half, like I'll text you, and also prefacing it, I don't take it personally because I know where I stand with you constantly, and you're my like sister.
Yeah.
And also, if I need you, I'll call you. That's something that I know. You'll
I'll always pick up a call.
She'll always pick up a FaceTime. She won't answer a text, but it was like a week. I'll text her every single day. Alycia Del Sol, I miss you. Hey, do you have your mic with you? Baby. She doesn't reply, but she answers to our group text. And then she's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I don't take offense, but there might be people in your life that will take offense to it.
And see, I say this all to say, like, I never want to police someone's feelings either. Like, when someone comes to me with that comment, I'm not going to, like, you know, whisk you away, or I'm not going to, like, be, like, dismissive, because that I never want to do. I always want to validate people's feelings. But sometimes I think that people take it too far, and it's like, you don't have a jurisdiction over my time just because you have my phone number. Like, I'm sorry.
No, of
like,
course.
You know what I mean? Like, I take that really seriously. Like, I don't love texting. Like, to sit and text back and forth with someone for 3 hours is my worst nightmare. Pick up the phone and call me. I always pick up a call. But I have to validate the fact that...
Can't you argue, though, that if you want, instead of replying in text, you can call them back, too? Like,
but then
I don't know, just
sometimes I don't always have
devil's
the time.
advocate.
No,
Sure,
please play
absolutely.
devil. But sometimes I just don't always have the time. And then I'm like, if it was important, you'd call me.
Sure.
Because I'm going to keep it a buck, too. I don't want to sit here and talk about things that don't... Like, the mundane. You know what I mean? Some people just want to text.
And I'm one of those people.
Well, I'll interject here. I think that that conversation specifically, I think, hits home because we all have to deal with that on a daily basis, not just with you, Alycia, but in life with texting people.
Yeah,
not
people just don't text back. Yeah.
And I think there's so much to say about the fact that says who do we need to be available at all times?
100%.
Says who do we need to be accessible at all times? And in that same token, I think that there is something to say about, well, we do live in 2022. Mm-hmm. And if you're posting on social media, maybe you could respond to something.
Yeah.
And I think that's just as valid as the other argument. I think both are true.
Agreed.
And I think I do not want to ever say this word again because I'm literally so sick of saying the word nuance, but I think this is a conversation that is that. I mean, every conversation we have is. LOL.
We're so different.
I think that both are true, and that's not a profound thing to say, but it is an accurate thing to say, and it is also my perspective, which is that, like, I get it. Like, I personally, even though I'm very different than you, Alycia, I mean, in so many ways, but when it comes to this, because I feel like I have to respond to everyone. And not only do I feel like I have to, I actually want to. I want to be that person that, like, you text me, hey, and I'm like, what's up? Like, my castmate, Alycia, texted me the other day, and it was, like, kind of an alarm. This wasn't an alarming situation, but, like, the way she phrased her first text to me was kind of alarming. And then I could tell she kept typing for a long time, and I just texted her, and I said, hey, I'm here in reading. And, like, just because I wanted to, like, let her know that I was, like, you know, present. And then she thanked me later. She's like, oh, that made me really happy that, like, you were there in that moment. So in that way, I can't relate to you. But in other ways, I agree. And I had that experience when I was running a school organization, because people felt like they owned my time.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't everyone. It was not everyone. There are a lot of amazing people, but there were people that were like, this was mainly people that I wasn't even friends with at all or did not even communicate with. But obviously when you're a part of the leadership of an organization, you need to be available and you need to be present. But like not at like 4 a.m. Or like when you're at like a family member's funeral, or just something that's like obviously you're not being present for that. So I really tune in that way.
I think it's so interesting because I'm like the exact opposite, because I look forward to getting reached out to people, like from people. I look forward to texting back people that I want to text back to. So if it's someone that I love and care about, I will reply within seconds. And I don't see a problem with that. But like also going back to just what Josie said of like, she saw someone texting, like her friend typing and didn't say anything and just saying, hey, I'm here. Like when you said that, Josie, I got a physical reaction of my heart feeling warm. It's little things like that I'm like, you don't know how much that means. Does that make sense? Especially in a world that like we are all so busy that we can't always be with each other physically.
Yeah.
We can't always be on the phone physically. So just a nice text means something.
Yeah.
And like I'm so opposite of you. Like I feel like
We couldn't be more different.
But like I think what makes our friendship work is that we talk about it.
Yeah, we talk about it and we're honest about our differences. And also, please correct me if I'm wrong. I want to hold my hand to the fire. I don't think it's fair for like people to be reaching out to me sometimes and then see me on social media. As much as like I stand 10 toes down in the statement, like I stand by the statement. It's my phone. I can do what I want on it. It doesn't mean that I have to respond to you. But at the same time, I have to acknowledge that it's not fair. Because I will say I have felt awful when someone reached out to me and because their very important text got lost in the mix, I wasn't able to be present for them in a way that I would have wanted to. That I do agree is not fair. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think that since I've met Josie and since I've met Yaz, I've taken steps to do better and be better.
Yes.
I'm still far from perfect. I'm still the worst in this entire room. I always want to be a better friend. I always want to like grow, and I like thank you guys because you both have had separate conversations. I remember Josie and I in our like first few months of friendship, she sat me down, she was like, yeah, I can't do that. You know, you went to New York and we didn't talk for 2 weeks.
Like, that's a deal breaker. I think that friendships can exist like that, and I love it. But the way that we were rolling, Alycia, and also like if I had met you this year, maybe I would have been different in that convo, but the way that we've been rolling, like sharing a house together, sharing work together, and then not hearing from you, I think that's why I was a little bit crazy and was like, that's a deal breaker in a friendship. It's not a deal breaker now for those who are out there. And
You're like, they're not friends anymore, actually.
And also, there are ways to communicate with people that isn't instant. Like my friend Christian, he's one of my favorite people on earth. We send each other video diary updates. And yeah, I don't like respond immediately. He doesn't respond immediately, but like we send each other a little short film. But I will say, if this was a debate and if I was the moderator, I think that if I could honestly say something to the two of you, I think, Alycia, I think for you, I think I understand all that you're saying about not feeling the need to feel the need. That's a redundant statement. To respond to things that are like inconsequential or maybe like insignificant. But I think that if we were really to look at the majority of people's concerns with not just you, but anyone who maybe is not responsive, it's probably not things that are inconsequential or insignificant to them. And I think that that's what's important to acknowledge. And in that same token, I think when it comes to someone like you, Yasmine, who is, I think, similar to me in certain ways, I think it's asking yourself, you know, what am I really getting from a response from this person? Is it really what I'm asking? Or is it a form of love or a form of being seen in a way that you're not able to feel outside of that person? And maybe that's a larger conversation to have at home. And I think both of those are true.
I think both can coexist. I feel like nowadays I don't need people to reply to me to know that they love me, because I know that I can go to you no matter what and you will be there for me. And I think it's very interesting, the whole phone thing and anxiety and communication. But I also want to touch on one more thing on this episode, and then we can wrap it up, is how this is now a career. Yeah. social media, phones, influencers, people are constantly like I have some friends who like go on outings and take content because that's how they get money, instead of making the content or going on a trip just to go on a trip and make memories. You're going on a trip to make content for social media, to make money, to pay rent. And it's so
And now your entire life is tied to a dollar.
And now your entire life is tied to a dollar, and it's tied to this. And without this, you don't get that check. You can't pay rent. And also, have you noticed, I've seen a lot of displaced people, houseless individuals, they will have a smartphone and not even have a home.
Yo.
But that is crazy to me, because that's how that's how you get a job.
But it's also like, accessibility.
Accessibility.
You need that because it's like
the way people are going to be like, if they can have a smartphone,
then they can get up and fucking work.
And
honestly,
capitalists can shut up. But it's like, you need that because it's a lifeline. Like, it is a necessity. It's like the same conversation of like, kids from lower socioeconomic status communities needing computers in their household now, because you can't literally turn in your projects, your essays without it.
Your college applications, you can't.
Well, that's literally the reason why those kids struggled the most in the pandemic. And that literally there's so many stats that discuss about those children who didn't have access to technology and that are now like grades behind.
Yeah, and like not as proficient as their peers because of lack of accessibility and technology. Like, it's such a necessity. Our phones are such a necessity. All of that goes to say our phones are overwhelming. Then like being off your phone can be problematic, and to what extent? Do we think that there is a world that we can reach a balance where we're on our phones for what we need and we're enjoying it and it's healthy, but also staying off of it and creating boundaries? Like, what does that look like? Like, can we do that in this new world where we're needing it more and more?
I think there's always balance. I think it takes a lot of power. I think it takes a lot of willpower. I think it takes a lot of bravery, and I think it takes a lot of accountability within yourself. And I'm saying accountability because I'm looking at me. Because every day I'm like, I'm going to look in the mirror and say I'm the most beautiful person in the world and list out 10 things I'm grateful for and not be on my phone for the first 30 minutes. I haven't done that in a year. So I have to hold myself accountable for that. I do think that we can have this beautiful thing at the same time as taking in the actual world that we're living in right now. I think you can do both. I think it takes time. I think it takes a lot of push, because the world wants us to rely on this.
Yeah.
The industry, the entertainment industry, our careers,
the infrastructure
the
of
government,
this very country.
Yes, they want us to rely on this. So I think it's kind of, it goes back to our whole dare we say thing. We're disruptors. We have to disrupt this status quo and hold ourselves accountable of looking at the world, being present, having actual bonds physically, face to face, if you can, without this. Body on body. Body. What about you?
I think that it starts with step one, which is being honest with yourself first about your relationship and acknowledging it, and like get really aware of what it is, whether it's like taking a step back for a day, and also be honest with each other as people in what your needs are and require, and know that it's not your fault. Like, I know this sounds very dramatic, but it is fucking dramatic. Like, we are living on a planet where literally only for the past 22 years, not even 22 years, for the past, 20 years since phones, that's a stat, since like cell phones have become a thing, like the past 20 years. And like, never before have we had to have the whole world in the palm of our hands. And I think that has changed us in so many ways. And I think that it is not our fault. And I was literally talking about this today. We really cannot control just about fucking anything in this world. There are going to be amazing moments. There are going to be bad moments. But the only thing that we can do as humans is control our relationship to that given moment. And I think that comes with being present and forcing yourself to like take a step outside of your environment. And maybe that means shutting off your phone for a little bit. And I think in that there is balance.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what both of you said. I think that it takes being introspective first and realizing your connection with your phone and understanding what you're capable of, what you're not capable of, communicating that with your community. And And I will be honest, I get a bit cynical because I get scared of where we're going with technology and specifically our phones.
Sure.
And our dependence on them and then the amount that we'll have to rely on them, especially generations that are not going to know a world without phones. That is scary to me. But I think that we can acknowledge how present they are in our lives and start taking small steps to be mindful with the practices about being present and setting boundaries and taking in experiences, even if it's just for a weekend, the way Josie and I tried to do in Spain. It is possible, and do what works for you, because I think that is going to look different for each person.
Everyone's different, and your needs are different, and your wants are different.
I implore you to look at your usage, see what you're on the most, and ask yourself why. Why am I on that? And be intentional. Am I enjoying TikTok and being on it for what I need to see for the day, my quick little 20 minutes, or am I disassociating and not regarding the important things in my life and procrastinating because I'm on TikTok? You know, like, that's a very different conversation. So be intentional, be mindful.